Welcome to the Cowboy Office Show, where you'll experience expert analysis and epic discussion on key pillars of the equine industry, including sports, business, hobby, and the horse lifestyle. Your co-hosts are Jody Brainerd and Brian Dykert, industry veterans with over 120 years combined living the cowboy lifestyle. The Cowboy Office Show will help you get involved, ask more questions, and create change. We'll keep riding for you as together we learn from the ride already ridden, learn to listen better to our horse, and make our industry better for all. Each episode will take a ride around the industry in less time than you can load the truck and trailer. Drop your email at cowboyoffice.com and never miss an episode. Saddle up as we ride into today's show.
Hello, horse world. Life after the Futurity is here. Why we make great reining horses is probably the same as it's always been, but the time, opportunities for return, and success in all of its forms are here for the sport of reining and way beyond the Futurity program of our days for all of our horses and owners. How we manage our horses, make decisions about their careers, set goals, and then compete is definitely changing and for the better in our view. We have with us today one of the top up-and-coming pros in the industry. It's going to be a great show. Ride with us by going to cowboyoffice.com, put your email in, make sure you click on the subscribe button on your platform of choice. Welcome to the Cowboy Office. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jody. Welcome. We have a great show for you today. We'd like to welcome Gabriel Borges, owner and operator of Borges Reining Horses, located in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's the man that rides 007, also known as Bond. I have a great question for you here in just a minute on that one right there, Gabriel. But as this duo lit the industry on fire last year, that huge win at the 100X Stakes in Tulsa, marking the historical 232, 77.3 average. Big finish this year in the run for Maine as they ended up tied fourth, marking a 226.5. That's a 75.5 average. 100X Derby, 229.5, 76.5 average. You know, Brian, it's come to my attention that when you show a horse three times and you're averaging 75, 76, 77.5, you know, you very likely have a pretty good horse, is what I'm trying to say. And that's not to take anything away from the horseman that got that horse there, but what a remarkable individual. So welcome to the Cowboy Office, Gabriel.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Well, you know, I was sitting here making some notes about this thing as I was working today a little bit. Gabriel, you're a little younger than the hosts right here. You know, I don't know if you're aware of that or not. My question here was, you know, this horse, you know, one of the remarkable things about him is not only is his athletic ability, but, you know, you can call it ring presence or you can call it panache. You can call it whatever you want to, but he's got that extra something special that makes people like him, not just because of what he can do, but he's a special guy. And my question here was, I don't know how familiar you are with all of the Bond movies, right? Because, you know, he's been around a really long time and you may not have had a chance to see them all, but I wondered, okay, which one does this guy fit the best, right? If you tell me personality and his name is Bond, is he a Sean Connery? Is he Roger Craig? Is he, you know, a Brosnan? I mean, which personality from a human standpoint fits that horse?
You know, the reason we did it because a friend of mine that owns his mother, you know, owns the mare that he's from Germany and we've been friends for a long time. And he also loves Bond's movies. And we had this idea trying to come up with the name for him. And, you know, when we saw that he was going to be black, white face, we were like, all right, you know, this 007 is always on the suit with, you know, black, you know, with the white shirt going on the mission. And I was like, all right, this little guy is going to be Bond going on the mission, you know, so because we had a big dream and we had a big expectation for him. And I mean, it was just perfect. The name fits perfect for him.
Awesome. Well, that's like I said, a great answer. I would love to, if I get to Scottsdale, I would love to spend a little bit of time around him. You know, I mean, just to be able to watch him hands on instead of just in the show pen. What about our all-time leaders list, Brian, with this?
There's two interesting pieces. We'll bring this up real quick for you because Gabriel, tell us how long you've been a pro and what attracted you to the sport of reining, because you are currently sitting number 83 on the all-time reining earnings list, which is a huge deal. And as of the close of 2023, and I expect 2024 to be even more so, you were number 8 last year of the top 20 in all of the sport. So, that's pretty phenomenal stuff. So tell us how long you've been a pro and what brought you to the sport of reining.
So I've been a pro, started my pro career in 2013. The first time I sat on a reining horse was in 2011. And, I always loved horses my whole life. I born with this addiction for horses, since my mom tells me that since I was a baby, every time, in my town in Brazil, they still use to this day the horse carries, the guy passes with the horse carrying milk and stuff. So sell to, to everybody in the city. I would hear his, hoofs and with the shoe in the asphalt, and would wake me up. It would wake me up and get me all excited to go see the horse. So she would have to pick me up and put him on the window so I can see the horse. So I born with this passion for horses, and I didn't know reining until 2011. That was when first time I saw a reining video. Also, I was in school, watching YouTube.
Yeah.
One time on the computer, and just searching horse videos, and then I saw this guy turning fast and the horse loping, carrying himself in a different position. And in the weekends, I always go rodeo with friends, and I used to ride in rodeos and bucking horses, and that was the fun. That was the only contact we had with horses. And I would ride on farms, help them out to brand the cattle, and all the farm job. And when I saw the video, I'm like, all right, what is this? I want to do this. And I had a feeling. I had a race mare. She was has no papers or anything, but she came from the racetrack, and she was pregnant, and she gave birth to this filly, and I say, all right, I want to make this filly reining. And then I start to discover what reining was. I want to be this filly going to lope around, steer, turn, and stop. And I need to have a horse. So I start to search for classes and something that could teach that, and I find out 2 towns away was a reining trainer, and I got in contact with him and went in there, sent my filly there, and then I said, okay, hey, I want to learn. So can I bring my horse and you teach me how to do this? And I thought it was gonna be a week, and I would be having a horse that would turn and stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it starts like this, and then after that I was hooked. And then
Way you go. And how long have you been here in the States?
I got here in 2015.
Good for you. Well,
Okay.
you are lighting them on fire. There's no doubt. So keep going.
Thank you.
Cool. And in a relatively short period of time too. That's awesome. Did you apprentice under anybody here? I'm sorry, I don't know your history, but it's like I've been away from this for 5 or 6 years myself. So it's like you after spending a lifetime in it. So times change very fast, and we'll get to that later on too. But did you work for somebody here?
When I first came, I worked for Dwayne Latimer and Tom McCutcheon. They are like Dwayne was at Tom's ranch at that time.
Yeah.
So I worked for them for a year, and then moved on. I worked for Ruben Vendor for about a year also. Then I moved to Andrea in Arizona, stayed there for about a year. And then I went to Martin Muster and stayed there for almost 2 years.
Okay.
And then I went out on my own in 2021.
Okay. Awesome. I think
He's got a solid foundation.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've done this for so long and had so many people work for me over the years too, I think that having a variety of trainers to learn from and developing an original program of your own, I would always tell people, I said, hey, look, you don't have to change what you're doing because you work for me. I just want you to add
Uh-huh.
what I have to offer you if we're training. So it's like, unless it's a bad habit, and I will tell you, I think that you can learn something from. I always maintain that you can learn something from everyone, even if it's what not to do.
Yeah.
But I think, when you get into a situation like that, where you have the opportunity to work for somebody for a year and you move on and work, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a positive experience. That's fantastic. And no doubt everybody, parts of each and everyone's program is in what you are doing today, in addition to that passion that you carry.
Those guys, they taught me so much. I appreciate every one of them, for all the effort, and especially because in the beginning I didn't speak any English, so I gave Dwayne and Tom a hard time, settling the wrong horse, like don't know, and they were patient.
Good. So being around those programs is you self-taught yourself English just by being around the programs?
Yes, yeah, I didn't know nobody here. I know one Brazilian trainer. I'm from the south part of Brazil, and there is like no raining at all. It was like it's hard to make a living there being a horse trainer.
Right.
And we ride no quarter horses there. We ride Criollo horses.
Yep.
So when I moved on here, I didn't know any Brazilian trainers. The fact that here was only quarter horses was like a big deal also, because they're totally different horses, different minds, and way more smart than the Criollo horse. It was left and right, trying to adapt everything.
Good for you.
I'm happy that they were patient with me because
Well, that's great. Well, you know exactly what to do when you have people that work for you now, right?
Well,
Right.
and let me share this one with you, because now you're talking about a young man coming to this country and getting to the top of the ranks, but he's sitting number 8 as of at the end of 2023. This is published by the NRHA. 200,000 last year alone was his earnings. And when we get to the end of 2024, it's going to be interesting because he's had a very strong year and we're only 3/4 of the way through it. So it's going to be really cool to see. But when you also look at the top 20 list, and I was thinking about this, Jody, and I was thinking about you, the top 20 list has a bunch of names that we never knew. And so it's a big change in the industry. And I say it from a positive standpoint. It's a positive change. It's great. And I think the fact that people from around the world are wanting to come here and get involved in it and build businesses, I think all of that stuff is phenomenal. And I might be a little bit biased because the U.S. market and the quarter horse, the fact that any horse and any great horseman can get this stuff done, that's true. So anyways, congratulations. And we're thrilled to have you. So good for you.
I think that's fantastic. Gabriel, after doing this for 40 plus years and, pretty much all aspects of this business, from the training and the showing and the coaching and the finding prospects and the judging and, all of that. I said I'd kind of emptied the barn out, 5 or 6 years ago, just because I'd had I love the sport. I grew up in it, second generation. My father was a trainer, and it's, it's a difficult job. And when the spot came, and I've told Brian this, I said, when my ego and my checkbook told me that I didn't have to do it anymore, then I was okay. And I'm good with it. And we go to Tulsa to watch that horse show. And it's 105 degrees and it's hot. And I used to bring 15 head to this horse show, and I don't miss it one bit. So, it was like, okay, you're right. It's like, I'm glad you're bringing them, and I'm glad the sport's where it's at. I think that's awesome. And
nobody could have told you any different when you were his age.
Oh, hell no.
So,
Even, and we couldn't
slow you down.
Right.
It wasn't going to, no.
And we couldn't make any kind of money, even close to what these guys can. You know what I mean? It was like so good. But what I'm talking about is things so rapidly change now in a short 5 years. Brian, it's like you and I I'll walk into a big event like Tulsa or 100X or go to Vegas or heck, even Futurity. And I'm recognizing about 60% of the riders in 5 years' time that professional groups have. They've changed just like that fast. and it's going to continue at that speed. I mean, in our generation, it was the same guys that I mean, just because the business couldn't handle any more than what there was. I mean, there was just, weekend shows, and you'd go to a show on a Friday, show Saturday and Sunday, and get up in the middle of the night and leave. I mean, there were 2-day shows, then they went to week shows, and now they're approaching a month, some of them. So have you seen any significant changes since you started? I mean, that you can think of in the short period of time that you've done this?
Yes, definitely. Yes. I mean, since 2015, okay, that's gonna be my reference. When I came, had a handful of guys that were the idols, that we follow in Brazil and everything through the internet, and I got here, start to know them, and start to see everybody, and now is like anybody can win. Everybody rides good, and every horse can do plus half. And that's what I feel when I go to horse shows now. It's like just not enough. It's like just being good is not enough. Gotta be you gotta be very good to place. And in 2015, you could see like, all right, those are the guys, and you can see that they were very different from the rest. And now it's like I watch everybody ride at night still, and I love to watch trainers do their thing, and it's so similar. The quality of the maneuvers, and everybody's riding so good, and the horsemanship aspect is like so fine now. You don't see like much difference between the riders now and the horses. And I noticed a big difference.
Good.
Brian and I talk a great deal about that when it comes to judging, because it's difficult for the officials sometimes to separate those horses when they're at that level. We've spent a great deal of time about that. Let me ask you this, and I would, Brian and I have had some discussion about this, but I would ask his opinion for our viewing audience right now at the same too. The growth has been phenomenal, both in prize monies and numbers. Do you think, Gabriel, that there is enough money? And when I say that, enough money means clients, right? Because they're the ones that support everybody. Do you think that there are enough for the growth to continue? Or do you think, my personal opinion is, we take this big market shock and then we still go up, but maybe not at the degree that it has? But I would ask both of you what you would think, say, the next 5 years would bring.
I'm going to let you go first, Gabriel, and
All
then
right.
I'm going to jump on that from a different angle. So go ahead.
I think it's going to a level of like like superstars on I mean I'm saying I mean, how can I order this? In English still breaking up a bit. But like in Brazil, the reference I have, judging by soccer, is something that, people invest, and that's the goal, is to become a soccer player. I think Rennie is getting to that point where it's growing and growing more and more and more, especially with those shows now, Run for a Million and The American, and it's becoming more and more popular, and the money is insane. I think you can get like at the business level now is going to a level that we need to adapt. I'm changing for the better every year, and right now with the technology and so much money in so many different areas of the reining businesses, I think it's gonna go to a level of those kind of sports. Soccer is my reference.
I hope so.
Yes.
And we used to dream about it. And
Right.
we always believed, our generation, but even Jody's dad's generation, the vision was phenomenal, which is true. The final product of a reining horse is a great product, and it's good for everybody. That's been true over the test of time. As the sport continues to evolve, and now we find ourselves, the Run for the Million, the American Performance Horsemen, our phenomenal 100X is trying, which is presenting a high quality competition to an audience, which is a fan. And that is the piece, which is when you talk about soccer, and whether it's soccer or Formula One, or here in the States, football, our football, it's the fan that's the rest of that equation on getting where we're talking about, especially on the economic level. I think it's interesting though, Jody, because what we all see is the explosion of purses and the depth of competition. And why has officiating now struggling? Because of the depth. Because in our time, Jody, the one or two or handful of really good horses would just automatically rise. And the officiating had no problem with that because it was so obvious. You now take any set of finals, last year's finals that Gabriel wins with a 232 on 007, any one of 20 of those horses could have done that. That's the difference. And so not only on the economic side, but then when we talk about the competition itself, and in our sport, there's a variable that we've got to put some attention in, which is the officiating side, because it's got to move at the same rate and pace that the horsemen and the breeders are. And we've been talking about it for years, but it's not. So
yeah, exactly.
And we're going to be able to talk about it in a minute because it brings us right to it. I want to do two things real fast. I want to show you, now this is the Cowboy office. This is ours. So this is not all inclusive to all reigning approved events. But when you only look at the Cowboy office has been analyzing 5 judge open aged events for 3 years. But when we look at last year, 2023 and 2024, and we're not done yet. So I'm actually off already by 1 because when the blue bar is number of events, the green bar is the number of aged events, aged classes inside events. Like, for example, 100X in Tulsa 3 weeks ago had 6 different aged events inside one massive event. That's an example. And the point to this is my 14 is actually 15 because we've still got a couple more to go here this year to conclude at the Futurity. But if you think about 31, and that's almost double in a year, of aged event competitions offered, this is the top end of our sport, offered to the market. It's almost doubled in a year. And the money's going to go with it, and I'll show you that too. But it's just an interesting piece when you start to look at that accordingly. The volume, there's 2 parts to it. The amount of people leaving our sport seems to be the same amount that are coming in. It is changing. The generation is moving. Gabriel's certainly part of that generation coming, and they are lighting it on fire. There's no doubt about it. But at the same token, so if you look at the mass numbers, that's not moving by a huge number. I don't think that it has to, though, either, because I think the piece that is on our forefront, it's the fan, it's the spectator, it's the audience. And if we keep following the lead, and we're going to talk about that because Run for the Million, 100X, American Performance Horsemen, that's exactly what they're doing, is taking a sport and putting it up there so that an audience can come and enjoy it and all the things, which then puts you like soccer in Brazil, right? Or Formula One in Europe. We've got the run last year from the 100X Stakes, Gabriel winning the finals, and we're going to take a look at it, and we've got it in 2 parts. So it should be a pleasant surprise to both of you. So hang on just a second and we'll have a little bit of a good time with this. So this is last year's 100X Stakes in Tulsa finals. And I'm sure, Gabriel, you've watched this a zillion times. Right?
Yeah, I watch a lot of times.
Yeah.
Trying to do it again and again. It's watching some things that could be better,
Right, of course. But Jody and I had a lot of fun with this one. And this is one of those runs that I wish I was in the chair. But it would have been,
Lord.
Yeah. This is just phenomenal. And we've got the scorecards to go with it so we can look at that as well. But this is a run that has no penalties anywhere in it. And this is all about how good something is. And it's actually better than how good. It's how close to very good and excellent, if you want to use the word perfection, but we don't. It's up there. This is the most fun part of our sport. I think. Gabriel, you tell us, what's it like in that saddle?
That is so quick, and so precise. That is like every time I finish, big runs like this, I finish like sweating because it's so anything can go wrong. It's so quick, and we have to have like such a communication with your horse, and it's it can I don't know this feeling. I cannot explain the feeling. It's such a unique feeling, adrenaline and satisfaction when maneuver after maneuver, after everything is working, and that's why I try to break it down when I go, try to perform on the highest level. Is like try to slow everything down and perform maneuver after maneuver, and
Yeah, I get it.
and sometimes I will watch after the videos and I'm like, how did I do that?
And you know what? There is a certain amount of sense. I've had that feeling on those nice horses that you're scared to death, but you're going for it at the same time. But you also have, it's hard to describe, but you've got that great feeling of confidence at the same time that says, you know what, this thing is so on right now. You're going to go come and catch it. So yeah, it's a combination of being scared to death and super confident at the same time. So yeah, I get it.
You knew in the saddle while this run going on at how good it was. Did you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And I planned this run in my mind so many times, before I go in. I knew every movement that I have to do, and I was connected with my horse, and like it just came together. And after this run, that's when my training program went with another level, I believe. It was because, things came together, and then something made so much sense with, to me, on how things can get done, and how we can bring it to another level after this run.
Good for you. Good for you. And you remember when we went over this one last year, don't you, Jody?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh. Because both those rollback, but that right rollback is probably one of 3 that I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's just phenomenal.
It's funny how, I love raining so much, and I love to study the maneuvers. Just something that, it's my passion. I'm always trying to see details. In the go round of the show, I have a couple bubbles, and I love rollbacks and I love turnarounds. Every maneuver of raining, I love circles, and I'm always trying to bring to less 1.5, because I never had the, I watch the scores and I remember like, okay, how can we get to the max maneuver? What do we need? So I start to study maneuvers all the time, and trying to figure out what some plus 1.5 maneuvers. And I remember at Deborah at the prelims, I have a bubble in the rollback, and I was trying to get a rollback. I was trying to get a plus 1.5 rollback, and remember in the show, my horse rolled back so quick, and then he lost his balance. Like he was turning so fast, and then when he would lope off, he would like slip. And Tiago Borges, which is a judge, and he's also, a friend, he was there and he watched me my go round, and I have a overturn and I have a trotter at the rollback. And then he came to me, and he's like, "You can win this. You gotta fix 2 things. One, you gotta, go for it, and 2, you have to get the rollback, just the lope off of the rollback better. Just the landing. The rollback is perfect. You just need to land. If you can give the horse the confidence to land after, like, if you can marry, I don't know how to say, but like after the move, when you move, if you can move and land and then engage to the lope,
Yep.
I say you're gonna be able to win this event.
Yep. Well, let's take a peek. We did a little bit of fun with that run, so bear with me for 2 seconds. This is not only my view, but many others. This is a highlight of this same run. But we're going to look at exactly what you were just talking about. And then we're going to pull up the scorecards real quick and kind of analyze it. It was pattern 15, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
12.
No, pattern 12. Yeah. It's just phenomenal. But what you were talking about was the rollbacks, and they're going to come up in 2 seconds, because all we did was kind of take these dynamic pieces. And then when your scorecards, here it comes. This rollback, this is me, is one of 3 that I've ever seen in my lifetime of this quality. That's one motion, like 179 degrees. Jody?
Yes, agreed.
And when you look at the scorecards, and that's really good, but it was so good on the other one.
Yeah.
And then this is your last one. And of course, it's absolutely excellent.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Is like, if you can make one movement, because the mechanics is good. If you can make it one movement, it would make a difference. And he was right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, here's his scorecard from that run last year. And the thing that's very interesting on it is kind of where they all went. And Jody and I do a lot of analysis on scores and stuff. And the reason that left rollback is there was no penalties in it at all. You had 2 plus 1.5s on your first stop. You had 1.5 on your right spin. Then you had unanimous +1 on your left spin. Basically a +0.5 on your 2 sets of circles. You could pick that apart. That right rollback was phenomenal. This is me. And this is one of the areas that our system has to work on, because both those rollbacks, while they weren't equal, they were both excellent. So in my book, those would have been 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. That's just me. And it's clear because they struggle with it on your left rollback, because you had 1 judge at +0.5, 3 judges plus at 1 judge 1.5. And then on your stop and hesitate, the 1.5 should have been like a no-brainer. And I think that's just a spot that the officiating's got to get more comfortable with. Jody, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think that, it's a mental aspect from a judge's standpoint it's so hard because we've worked with so many over the years, but what happens in a situation like this is it's like, guys, one guy pulls the trigger on a 1.5 on the first run in and stop and back up. And clearly the entire maneuver is excellent. I mean, you have, first of all, I've lobbied for years to make the backup a separate maneuver. I mean, that thing backs at +2. I mean, there's not one I've had horses that could back like that and couldn't stop. I've had horses that could stop like crazy, couldn't back. They back like a camel. This thing can do both. But when you have a horse that can back like that and doesn't collapse and stick his head on his chest and his top line stays level, and that's incredible. I mean, the backup's excellent, the run and stop is excellent. So there's, without question, it's an excellent maneuver because both parts of it. So the approach was excellent, the stop was excellent, the backup was beyond excellent. So that should have been a unanimous decision. I mean, there shouldn't have been one guy pull the trigger on that. I mean, but it's part of it. So yeah.
Well, it's going to lead us so the run for the millions changed the industry in so many ways, and definitely leading us to new frontiers. And they're proving the fact that many thoughts and ideas can work. It's just somebody's got to do it. We want to focus on a couple of key areas. And a big one is Jody and I remember well, in the early 80s when the sport of reining first guaranteed 100,000 to the Futurity champion. You're talking about one person in a year. But that was a really, really big deal. And it was one of those historical spots in the sport. When we look back, it's a monumental step, no doubt. Now you got the run for the million. And we're going to talk about a few of the pieces. But one, you got to qualify way early in the year, 16 unique riders, pick your horse up to showtime. And then 3, it's paying $500,000. $1 million purse that's going to pay $500,000 to win it. You were 4th this year and got a nice paycheck. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a changing piece for the industry, and the thoughts are purses and opportunities. And as I showed you on that graph, the mere fact that we've got 14 major events, 30 different aged event sections, divisions, classes, whatever you want to call them inside those event productions. In Jody's and my time, there was 3. We had the Derby, we had the Futurity, then came the Derby, then came the NRBC. And the NRBC is in its mid-20s, 25, 26, 27 years old. Phenomenal program, lasted a long time, doing great stuff. That's all there was. There's now 14 of those. And so part of the question is, that's a lot to pick from in a year's time, right? So I assume that that's good, but it puts a different pressure point on how you manage, how you make a decision, how you do your stuff, what shows you're going to go to, not, right? Talk about that for a minute. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Would you like to see more or less?
I mean, you got to be very, very smart on how you plan your horsepower for those shows, in my opinion. And you only, you got to perfect things and do things better and change some things. To me, I've been trying to qualify for the Run for a Million since 2021. And I've been like half a point behind the 10th place.
Mhm.
And, and then I was studying. Well, I mean, the good thing of not qualifying is that you can get to watch and see people, what they do, how they do it, and I was studying those riders and see the different approach they took. Some guys, they qualified their horses early on in the year, kept showing, went there by the time August came, they had no horse left.
Mhm.
Some guys, qualify one horse, showing a different horse at the Run for a Million, they has different, more variety, multiple horses to choose from. So my plan was, I had at the time, 007 was my pick to show at the Run for a Million. So I made a plan and I saved him. After 100X, he was done. I showed him only twice last year. I showed him at the Derby and I showed him at the 100X. And I saved him through NRBC and qualifying. I didn't show him in the qualifier here in Scottsdale. And then my plan was showing 007 on the qualifier, try to qualify him. If we qualify, don't show him, save him for the Run for a Million, preparing for that run. So after the 100X, he pretty much was just getting prepared for the Run for a Million show. And
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year. So after the 100X finish, that was my plan. I'm like, okay, this is my horse for the Run for a Million. I'm going to save him now. I'm going to prepare him for Run for a Million, which is the prelims would be Cactus and then showing Agus. And so I didn't show him anywhere else. And the plan was, even if he won, even if you had won Run for a Million, was to show in Tulsa a week after. And so I think, in my opinion, you gotta have multiple horses to pick from, which is really, really hard to do, because not every day you have, horsepowers like this.
Right.
Especially myself, that I started the business in 2021, and now I'm building my horsepower. It takes time. If you build them from the scratch, it takes time. You make 2-year-olds, and to get to those horses, and you gotta keep them. Now that the market is so good, it's really hard to keep a horse like this.
Yeah.
Everybody would like to.
There's a little competition out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're dealing with deep pockets out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Buying and selling, who's
Yes.
owning, who's doing what they want to do, the goals, all the things, right?
yes. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have to hold a horse like that, you gotta have a good support behind you, and it's a lot of pressure. You gotta be able to say, I can win a major event. It's crazy, because the horsepower is so good. Also, the trainers there that are already in this business for so long, they have tremendous support and multiple horses to pick from. So that was the plan. I saved that horse for that show.
Okay.
And
Well, it's obviously a good plan, recognizing that quality, and, because I had spoken with Arno at the Derby and asked him, obviously, you guys got a deep string, but I said, I told him it was nuts, because he was going to come from Scottsdale to our part of the country, the Oklahoma City area, 5 times this year. I mean, he had Fort Worth, Tulsa, the Derby,
And
100X, coming to the Futurity, 5 trips here. Obviously and then go have a week turnaround to go back and go to the high roller. You're home and you get a day. I mean, you get off the airplane, you got somebody else driving your horses, and it's like, and I'm going like, we used to go. I'd try to tell my people we're going to go to 6 shows a year. I mean, that was, the non-pro clients. We're going to find 6 shows this year. That's what we're going to go to. We're not going to try to go to 20 of them, right? I'm amazed at, number one, I'm amazed at the amount of disposable income as far as that deep pockets that there are. We've talked about that before, because that's not a cheap haul 5 times coming from Scottsdale to Oklahoma City and back again. I'm amazed at the horsepower that there is, that the same group of riders can come from, like, say, your part of the country, or can come from that Fort Worth area and go to all those shows. That's incredible. And
Yeah.
I am so glad I don't have to try to find one to compete anymore, because it's impossible. Yeah.
And also it's hard on the owners too, because you got to bring your 3-year-olds with you. We're on the road this year so much, and you need to bring them with you. If not, they will be behind for the Futurity. And gets expensive at the end of the year.
Sure. No question.
Right. I'm using casual terms, but it's almost doubling the training bill just because they got to go on the road with you. And there's a good and a bad. It's good because it gets them, not only does it challenge their immune system and gets them healthier and all that kind of stuff, and gets them more worldly and all that kind of things, but you got the normal expenses that go with it. So yeah. Which is way different than 1 or 2 a year. Now you're 10 and 12 and 14. Actually, by the numbers, if you take the unique horses and the amount of shows last year in 2023, it's 1 to 12, which means every horse was shown on average 12 times, which is once a month. Let me show you this one quick, because I thought this was interesting. This is the top 20 riders, 2023. Gabriel's number 8, climbing the board quick. Good job. But what this shows you is how many horses. Now, this is horses that earned money that put them in the top 20 list. So that's what it's showing you. So from number 1 to number 20, and the average is right about 15. So it's just an interesting point, and it's definitely it's a growth factor in our industry, and way different than our time. It's just interesting. But you bring up a very big and valid point, which is the rest of the economics. And so the expense to build them, the expense to get them the experience they need, everybody. But then the other side of that is, and it appears that the purses are coming because you can earn your way and get some return. Am I speaking fair, Gabriel? Or
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you have a chance to win 500,000.
right?
It's and on the 100X, I mean, that run, we got 150. It's. I mean, you have to do it. If you have a good horse, you have to, and
You got to go.
you gotta go. And I just, so much money out there. If you have the horsepower, it's gonna pay off.
I have one other one. I'll show you this one real quick. And Jody, this will follow into yours quick. This is the top 20 list published by the NRHA. It was published in the Rainer, April of this year, which is 2023's review. And again, Gabriel is number 8. But here, now this is level 4 only. This is not all 4 levels. So level 4 open riders, $4.6 million, the top 20 riders earned last year, which is 18. It's right at 19% of total money earned across the industry in the year. That's 24,498,000 across all sectors of the sport. And so I found it very interesting. And then all we did was put a percent of that total. So when you go down the top 20 list, that rider's earning percent of the total that the 20 did, the 4.6 million, and you can kind of see it accordingly. But the thing that was interesting, and Jody, you're in my time, and I don't want to hound on the old days because that's not what it is, but just like Gabriel talking about his foundation and references his upbringing in southern Brazil, in our time, you're talking about 20th place last year, $84,000 in a year, which is only 1.5% of the total purse money that was had last year. That was one person, and it was number one in our time, which was whoever won the Futurity. It's just a very different, distinctly positive movement for the sport. So that's what it says. And I think it's like very cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a neat deal. And I'm going to jump into a spot here that is definitely going to cause some conversation because, and we've talked about this, but the run for a million has proven there's a new and better way that's possible for the sport. And it's the one rider, one horse competition as to our sports norm of one rider and three horses, which has always been that way. And nobody knows why it's been that way because there was just a few trainers and they had most of the horses. And so, we're just going to show three. So it's just always been, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're going to continue to do it. We're going to have three. My point was, we have division after division after division to level the playing field from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4. And Brian and ours day, there was open and non-pro, and that was it. You know what I mean? And then they come with the intermediate, and then all of a sudden they had another couple. And my question here, food for thought, and you talk about, I think this is going to go to the level of, soccer. It's going to go to the level of professional sports where we see, this much money that's going to be available. Part of the reason that the Run for a Million has been so successful, only because of Taylor, but it's because his vision for what it takes to have an entertainment package that people can understand. And it's the reason that our major event finals, the Futurity Finals, are, we've got a 3/4 full Coliseum in Oklahoma City. There's a lot of people that are coming down to the finals. Go rounds, that thing's empty. It's like there's nobody there. So huge money shows need to be in 2-hour packages so that people can see the best of the best, which is why the Run for a Million, they're like, okay, we're going to go stay a week and we're going to do it, but we just want to watch this 90-minute or 2-hour show. That's where it's going to be, and that's where all the money's at. So at some point in time, the show period, now it's like, we got 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, 12 days, 14 days to get to that 2-hour window. My question is it beneficial? Would there be benefit to take some of these major events and go use that Run for a Million format where it is one horse, one rider? I buy a Futurity slot. 24 hours, I'm going to tell you before my horse goes, I'm going to tell you which one I'm going to show. And, no, our numbers aren't at 450 or 500 head, but we've got 140 head of the best of the best. And we can shorten that time frame, get to our 2-hour window where that $1 million can be paid and not have 14 days. If we want to go have a 14-day show where we've got non-pro horses and we've got different, then we have that at a different spot. But my question to you, Gabriel, do you think looking down the road in the future, it's like it's outside the box thinking? You have to think beyond, oh shit, I would lose my training horses. But you would think that, maybe I've got, 3 really good horses, but here's my best one. And now I'm going to take my second best one and I'm going to find another rider for it. I'm still going to get paid for it and I'm still going to get some money. But would there be benefit? Obviously, the Run for a Million works. Nobody bitches about one horse there. They go, this is my best one. I'm going to go show it. So you think that possibly there could be some benefit to lower the numbers to increase the purse size because right now, Brian and I've talked about this a lot. There's huge amounts of money, but still it's kind of a giant jackpot because it's on our owners. It's on full enrollment. It's on stallion enrollment. A lot of that is, it's not, we haven't, our sport can't gather that outside revenue like the Run for a Million does. But I think we get to a spot where we can have Nike come in as a sponsor or someone like Ford Motors gives us $1 million. That's where we need to go. And my question is, would there be some benefit at some of those major events to shrink the level for the best of what we got to offer to a single rider saying, this is my best horse, I'm going to go show it?
I think You know, for the young riders like me, open their business and starting that we don't have the access of that many horsepower, it's a better chance to win,
Sure.
because everybody has one shot, if and things happens with anybody. So um that's why I took the run for a million so serious and like prepared that horse for that run, because there was a good shot that I had that, Andrea, Jason, Craig, I mean, Sean, they would have one shot just like me, and I feel like if I'm, you know, prepare and anything could happen. When, you see the Futurity, those guys they have three good ones, usually normally, one in the top, one right there in the middle, one at the end. So you have the odds is higher for us that, if everybody has a one shot. And I think for the business side and the show side, it's becoming more like a show. If I think if you narrow down, like you say, you have those big sponsors, I think that's where is the road to take Rain to a different level, because it would be more like a show. You would pay for a show. You would see, quality after quality after quality, because it would force the riders to be closer to perfection, better runs, have one shot. So I think the quality would go up.
Yeah, I agree. And we've talked about that some too. And I think when the whole world is about eyes on how many people watch, and the more people watch, the more that money is easy to get from the sponsor standpoint, so anyway,
Well,
yeah, good question.
And a great conversation. But what you're talking about is that is a major shift in the way the market works. Again, that's a forward movement, because how did commerce advertise and market to their consumer is very different in today's time than it was 10 and 15 years ago. So, a lot of businesses used to come up with a name that was alphabetically at the beginning, because the yellow pages, your name would be first in the yellow pages. That was just one of the common. Now I'm going way back. The point is what you're both talking about. I think Gabriel's take is a phenomenal insight, because it flattens one of many things. A run for the million is now proven success, and it works, but it flattens and equals that playing field. That's basically what you said. Yes, Gabriel?
Yes.
Because everybody's got the same, which is one shot. And so I think that's way cool. And it's interesting, if we looked at that, think as an industry, we could look at it in two very distinct categories. One is the Futurity horses, because that's how we build those horses. And after their Futurity, which is now the life that we have as a sport, we could look at that segment of the industry very differently. And I think that's what Run for the Million is setting the stage to do, is to look at it, see it, feel it, experience it in a very different light, because all of those things are not normal, but I would call them very positive and very healthy, right?
I think so. And I think that, like I said, it's kind of fun because I get to look at this from the outside now. I'm not in the middle of it anymore, right? So I get to take this, I get to look from the outside in, and my numbers, I'm not sure because it's been so long since I've even looked at it, but NRHA was what, Brian, is 15,000, give or take, members pretty consistently.
Just shy of 13,000. I have them right in front of me.
And okay, what do we have from a professional standpoint? What's there, 8,000-9,000 trainers maybe?
No.
I mean, worldwide. Think about this.
I've got the numbers right in front of me.
Okay.
Worldwide membership last year, 2023, 12,749. 1,798, right at 1,800 professionals.
Okay.
You have 9,000 non-pros. So that's where you are.
1,700 professionals worldwide.
Yep.
So that are doing all the training for the 13,000, or the non-pro crowd, and or riding some of the
membership.
Right.
Whatever we're doing with our horses.
Right. I'm just saying from the number standpoint, we have more and more and more shows. So I'm saying that if you limited your number of horses right now to one And I think it gives also guys like Gabriel the opportunity to say, yeah, I mean, this 3-year-old goes to the 100X, this 3-year-old goes to the high roller, this 3-year-old goes to the Futurity. I mean, I think that there's enough shows that possibility exists that you could spread that out. And I think if the numbers get high enough, you'll see guys just like you have the Europeans coming here to show the run for $1 million. I think you'd have guys loading horses on an airplane like I did 25 years ago, and to go show at Augsburg to try and win a world title, you'd go, if the money's there,
They'll go.
Yep. So anyway, just another interesting thought. Like I said, from a number standpoint, I actually think that you would see, it's kind of a funny thing, and this doesn't have a ton to do with it, but I said, even if a trainer, if you were limited to a horse per major event, doesn't mean your non-pros aren't there. It doesn't mean any of that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about the level 4s or the professionals at a major event. I liken this a little bit to COVID. When COVID first hit, I called a dozen trainers just because I was interested. It didn't affect me any. I didn't have a barn full of horses, but I asked them if they'd lost a horse due to COVID from a training standpoint. You know what? I had one trainer tell me he lost one horse. So I'm saying the fan base, love reiners, are so big, no matter what, they're going to keep a trainer with a horse. A horse with a trainer. I believe that the people, a little bit like you, Gabriel, that had that passion to come here to this country and to work your tail off to get where you're at, I think that there's owners with that same level of passion that no matter what, they're going to have a horse just because they love the sport.
Yeah, I agree. It's the passion is out there, and I'm fortunate to have a barn full of people that love the sport. They're like, looking for the next one and the next one, because we got to start. I mean, looking for, like, you have a good horse for this year, but you need to have your yearlings getting ready for the next year and the next year. So like you need 3 generations, planning ahead. So when I opened my business, I was thinking, how long it was going to take, and to find people that want this like we want, and understand and try to invest in a prospect that, it's going to take 3 years to get into the show pen, and having one that is going to take another year to get in, so like having 3 generations so you can have one every year made by the same program. And I thought that was going to be almost impossible. And I was surprised with how many people just love the process, and to have that next horse coming and having the opportunity to have the next champion. It's crazy how, we're fortunate to have people that loves horses just like us.
Well, I think it's also a testament to the entire industry and the quality of the sport and the quality of the product. And a lot of that is driven not only by you guys and all that side, but the product itself, which is competition, because one of the things that put reiners on a very fast growth schedule was the officiating program. So because that fairness is there, I want to give you a couple quick numbers because you guys were just on it. Roughly, approximately, you got about 4,000 horses per year being competition licensed and or nominated, because the Futurity and Derby is now a nomination program that goes a long time. So I'm mixing those two numbers very closely to each other, but basically that's about where our industry is. So you got about 4,000 horses. Your 1,800 trainers, just that in itself is 2 to 1, 2 horses to every trainer if you just did the simple side. But the other interesting piece is last year, total entries worldwide in the sport of reining, 131,000 entries. And this goes back a little bit because when you do the simple math, I did unique horses, total shows offered and entries, and it's about 1 to 12, which is a horse is shown 12 times in a year, which is basically once a month. That's just looking at it flat, and nothing's equal in there, but I think that that's all very interesting. What it appears to me is the sustainability of the quality of the product is not a problem. You got Gabriel, and there's 15, I don't know how many, but there's probably, 400 of him that are coming into this sport, and they're coming and they're learning, they're doing all the stuff, and they're moving faster than we ever did. So the quality and the genetics and the breeding and all of that stuff, if you look at the breeding numbers and the sale numbers in the last 3 to 5 years, they're all up. You were just talking about, Gabriel, you guys, the industry is looking at yearlings, right?
Yeah.
They're watching weanlings and yearlings. In our time, they were long 2-year-olds.
And even when from 2015 to now, the market on babies is going crazy. Everybody, people don't mind to spend 200,000, 250 on baby now. That have already the genetics that is being proven is winning. It's insane. Before it needs to be trained up. I'm
Yes.
comparing from 2015. Train them up, get them good, show, and then they work this amount. Now it's like, all right, before embryo,
Yes.
150, 200,000 is like crazy numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I liken this a little bit. I was laughing the other day because I had actually I had some conversation with an attorney, and I said, this sport, if you'd have told Brian and I in the 80s that, that Andrea was going to be the high money earner for the year with $700,000, we'd have said, you're full of shit. I mean, really, it's not going to be possible, right? If you would have told Terry Bradshaw, when he was the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, getting that crap beat out of him back in those days because those guys weren't protected, that Dak Prescott was going to be making $40 million a year, he just said,
No way.
you're drinking. So
Right.
Times have changed.
Well, yes. And Gabriel's in this batch, which is the next younger generation of pros coming up through. But in our time, Bill Horn, God bless him, rest his soul, but it took him a lifetime to hit the mark that these guys are now doing in 3 to 5 to 6 years. That's the difference from a practical standpoint. And I think it's healthy. I think it's great. There's
For sure.
nothing wrong with any of that, as long as all of the rest of it keeps moving. Am I somewhat?
You're right. When I came over, it was like, my dream is to be $1 million rider. And then now it's like, all right, they shake your hand. All right, you're $1 million, get out of here.
You're close. You're going to see it soon.
Yeah.
So you're going to be $1 million rider soon. So,
it's meaning almost not much anymore. You gotta keep going.
Yeah.
With
And
those
now
guys
you got,
winning
yeah.
almost $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, crazy. Well, good.
gentlemen, we've come to a conclusion. We are in great shape. Gabriel, we can't thank you enough. Your time, your expertise, your insight was actually invaluable. It's great to see the next generation and how you kind of see that. Your input on the one horse, one rider, flat and fair. Everybody's got that shot. I think that's phenomenal insight. Thank you very much. Congratulations to you and 007. I mean, you two have obviously done something very special. It's one of those things in the history books. It's the Hollywood Dunnett and Tim McQuay. It's the Craig Johnson and Smart Chickalina. Bill Horn had a dozen of them, but it's one of those special ones that I'm confident that history will treat it very well. And so congratulations and good for both of you. And I hope for 007, because he's a young horse, right? He's a 5-year-old this year. So, his breeding career is just starting. And so it's going to be interesting to see how all of that goes. So we want to thank you for your time. We want to congratulate you for all your success. And we want to keep pushing you hard because you're just getting warmed up. So God bless you and keep going. We will be watching. We'll be following the data. And at some point in the near future, we'll have you back on and we'll talk about some more of that stuff. We'll put links. Everything will be linked and people can get to Gabriel, get to his program, get to 007 breeding farm that manages him, all that stuff. That'll be attached as well. Remember to go to thecowboyoffice.com, drop your email in, join us, hit the subscribe button. Horses are good for people. And until the next time, enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. Gabriel, I can't say thank you enough. This sport is in great, great shape when we have young guys like you that with the passion and the drive and the intelligence to put forth the effort that you have. So thank you very much. I can't wait to get to see you in person, show your horse. And until the next time, stay in the middle.
Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun to have, to enjoy both legends and talk about horses, and
He's
learn
a
so
legend.
much.
He's a legend, not me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're both old legends. Old is the key word. Anyway, we just loved the show. It was fun.
Thank you so much.
Today's episode is brought to you by 40 Productions in cooperation with the Consultment Agency, a full-service agency that helps bring forward-thinking equine brands into the 21st century using digital skills and services such as website development, graphic design, social media, and media production such as the podcast you're consuming here today.